Well, hello and welcome back to In the Greenhouse with Orchid Supply Store. I've just completed repotting about 11, I guess, Phalaenopsis, and I said, why don't I show you what I was doing? So these are Phalaenopsis. Most of them were my wife's. They were in the house. They've stopped blooming and they're ready to be moved to the greenhouse, and that's what I do. I just bring them out, I repot them, I sit them on the shelf, and I wait for them to rebloom, or I wait for them to go bad, and then I send them to Trish. But I have one left, and I'll show you what I do. This one has an old spike, which that's the first thing I'll do is I'll cut it off. We'll cut that off there. And then I just dump it out of the pot, and it still has the original moss from the grower. I clean this moss off the roots, and these roots are in very good condition, nice and green and supple. So this one, even I may get it to survive, but we shall see. So again, just cleaning it off, and you'll notice that I'm not as gentle as a lot of people. When you're doing 10, 11, 15 at a time, you just don't have the time to spend on each and every one of them. This one still has the old core on it, which I will take off. Black core. It's a no name. There's no tag with it, so we get a lot of those. Buy them just for the bloom, not for the species. Okay, so this one, actually every one of those roots look very, very nice. Trim that spike a little closer here. Oh, that's a tough one. There we go. Okay, so I've got it cleaned up rather nice, and what I do is I put just a little bit of the moss in the bottom.
Dennis, can you bring me a small box?
And you just heard my wife on the intercom. She wants me to bring her a small box. Probably putting something away. So I'll finish this first, and then I'll answer her. We have an intercom system throughout, from the upstairs to the downstairs where we work, to out here in the greenhouse. That way you don't have to run around trying to find someone. Okay, so then what I do is I take the Orchiata bark, and this is, well, it looks like it's a combination of medium and large, which for this Phalaenopsis will work just fine. And I just fill in around, pat it down. And that's what I do to each and every one of them, and it's ready to go on the shelf. Well, at this point, I came back from retrieving a box for my wife, and during editing, I realized that I failed to turn on my microphone. So I'm going to have to do a voiceover on all of this, and I try to remember exactly what I was talking about. But of course, the one thing was getting my wife a box. I think she was reorganizing or decluttering or something. And then the other thing that I was telling you, that I had had a problem with a water leak. The way our water and electricity works here is it's actually monitored, at the office. They don't even come out to read the meters anymore. They just get on the computer and it transmits the usage, of both the water and the electricity. And I had received a notice that I was using 35 gallons an hour. And this was 24 hours a day. 35 gallons an hour. That's a lot of water. I don't think that I was able to flush the toilet that many times. So I contacted my landscape guy, and he's actually the one that installed the water to the greenhouse. And he's been here since about 10 o'clock this morning, and I think it's currently about 4 o'clock. And he has found a couple of problems. One is in my irrigation system. I have a six zone irrigation system, and he found one of those zones, had a small leak, and he repaired that. And then he also determined that there was another leak, somewhere coming into my greenhouse. So it's a fairly complicated system, and he was able to find it, and he's currently working on it, and I hope he gets all of that, solved today, because that's a lot of water, and I mean, if I have to pay for it, it's going to be around $200 extra a month. Okay, and here I'm getting ready to do something. I think we're going to repot the Phalaenopsis that I pointed out, in the last video. This is one that I had pulled aside and said that I was going to repot this Phalaenopsis into one of the wooden baskets. And this one has a spike on it. So I want to be a little extra careful to not break that spike, because as you've seen in the past, I'm not that gentle when I repot things. But on this one, I'm gonna have to be just a little more careful, trying not to break that spike. This particular Phalaenopsis has already bloomed on the original spike. It actually put out two additional spikes off of the original, and I'm going to cut those off. I'm going to come down to just above the viable node. That's what I'm doing there. I'm cutting that off, and I'm leaving the rest of the spike because it's very possible it will bloom again. And then, of course, it's put off a brand new spike, and certainly hope that one's going to bloom. And then I fasten the spike, to the stake. And that's what I'm doing here, and just being sure that it looks okay. And then I'm taking it out of the pot, the way that I do everything. Just yank it out of the pot, and then I'm going to remove all of the original moss, because this is moss from the original planting. So I strip all of that off and clean the roots somewhat. I don't clean them perfectly clean, because this Phalaenopsis has been in moss all of its life, so just a little bit left on the roots is certainly not going to hurt it. And as you see, that's what I'm doing there, just cleaning the moss, off of the roots. And I think this one still had the original moss core, and had to pull that off, and just getting it clean enough so that it can be repotted. Okay, and this is an unnamed. It does not have a tag. I wish they all had a tag, but most of them don't. They're sold just for the blooms. And what I'm doing here is cleaning up the roots. It had some dead roots, some very small, some withered roots, and I'm just snipping those off, trying to clean it up, the best that I can. And I'm removing just a little bit of the bark out of the basket because that's where it's going to sit. So looks like I got the right amount, and I'm easing it under the wires because this basket has wires on it already, so I don't want to hit or break anything as I'm putting it in. So I just kind of even it up and get it in the basket, and then fill in the gaps with some fresh bark. Checking all around, to be sure that it's completely filled, and hoping that this bark is large enough that it doesn't come flying through the slots in the basket, because it is a combination of medium and large, and the medium bark really is not large enough to stay in there, but I'm hoping most of it will stay. I think it will. And I'm just filling all the way around, checking to be sure that there's enough bark. Okay, then after I get it all in there, I look at it and I decide, gee, I don't really need that stake, so I'm taking the stake off. And the reason I don't need it is because I have wires on this basket, and I can attach the spikes directly to the wire, and that will act as my support, for the spikes. This one, I've got to be just a little more careful with it because it's not really close enough, and I'm repositioning the Phalaenopsis slightly so that I can get it around, and looks like I got it, and I'm attaching that spike to the wire. So that's how that one looks, all finished and ready to hang. And I'll find a nice spot somewhere in the greenhouse for this. So I kind of set it aside, and we'll go to the next project. Have to clean up just a little bit because all of that moss is there. And it's amazing how much moss comes out of one pot. There's enough there, honestly, that you could probably replant, two, at least two. When these are planted at the nursery, at the grower, they must have some compression that they use because it is really packed in there tight. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I've threatened to repot this one several times, and this time I'm going to do it. This is my orchid, the one that I considered my baby, and it currently is in some type, and I'm not even sure exactly what it is, but it's some type of wire basket hanger. And it's been in there since day one. I've never done anything to this one. I put it in that one, when I got it, and it was, probably 25% the size that it is now. So it was very easy to get it into this wire basket. And I'm trying to locate the wire hangers, and I'm having to get some clippers, some heavy duty clippers, to cut this wire off. So I cut the spike off because it's finished, and get it out of the way so I don't make more damage than needs to. So what I'm doing here is I'm trying to find the wire hanger and cut it off, and it's a very heavy duty piece of wire. Yeah, so I struggle, getting this thing off. And not only is it a heavy duty piece of wire, because this orchid has been in this basket for so long, it has grown on, around, and in. I mean, it's the wire and the orchid are one. I mean, it's really embedded in there. So there's absolutely no way that I can get that orchid out of this wire basket. So what I decided to do is just find and clip the top part, the top ring of this wire basket, and get that out of the way. And I think that is going to be good enough, that I'll be able to repot it and it will be okay. So that's what I'm doing here, just trying to locate and cut the wire, so that I can at least pull pieces of it out. And it's difficult to find and difficult to cut. As you see, I'm kind of struggling here. But I do eventually get it. And we can just watch old Ken struggle with this wire for a couple of minutes. And what I'm doing here is I'm telling you about my eye. I struggle seeing perception, depth, because you need both eyes, to accurately judge depth. And I have a problem with my right eye that I've had for some time now. In December of 22, the family, all of the family, grandkids, everybody, we spent Christmas in the mountains. And at some point up there, don't really know when it was, didn't seem to have a problem, but at some point, a blood vessel ruptured behind my eye, my right eye. I didn't really notice it at the time. It didn't hurt or anything, but when I noticed it is on the way home. Coming from the mountains, we have to come down and go through Atlanta or around Atlanta, to get to Noonan. And it had already turned dark, and that's when I noticed it. Have you ever tried to drive through the Atlanta traffic with one eye? It's not easy. I didn't say anything to my wife at that point because I did not want to scare her, but quite honestly, it scared me because I couldn't see. I mean, I was blind in my right eye. Went to the doctor the following week and found out that I have the degenerative, whatever they call it. Happens to almost every old person, but it's a degenerative condition. But in addition to that, I had a blood vessel rupture behind my right eye, and I just needed to have it worked on. The good news is most of it is reversible. So I go every 4 to 6 weeks, have been going since January of 22, every 4 to 6 weeks, and I have a needle stuck in my eye. That is a lot of fun. If you've never tried that, you should try it sometime. They just take a needle, and they stick it in my eye, and they squirt some kind of medicine in it, and that's how they're treated. And this medicine, I don't know what it is, but it's $4,600 a shot. $4,600 a shot. And here I'm explaining the depth perception. Most people, you can just put your fingers together, but mine was so bad that I couldn't. I was showing you, how my eyes see. Fortunately, not that bad right now, but I still have a small problem. So when I'm locating something like this, locating it with a pair of snips, sometimes I miss it, because my depth perception is just not perfect, and I have to go after it more than once. So that's what I was explaining there, and why it appears to, well, not appears, it does take me a little bit longer, than it would take most people. Okay, now here I have determined that this part of the orchid is all but falling off. So I'm going to go ahead and, well, I'm still getting a piece of wire out there, but I'm going to go ahead and separate this, because I can keep it as part of the main plant, but it's always going to be wobbly. It's never going to be attached, because the roots were out there all by themselves, and they just really wanted to be their own plant. As I continue, to work some of this wire, it was really in there, really dug in, very hard to find. But I did manage to get enough of it, that I was able, to do something good with this plant. And I think this is where I decided to go ahead and separate the two plants and make them two instead of just one. Still cleaning up, bits and pieces and all, and I think I get to the point that I just say, the heck with it, let's just rip it out, because the roots were separated from the plant to the baby, but the roots down in the root ball is what was still holding it. So that's what I had to just literally, pull apart. And so that's what I'm doing here. And after careful, as you see, a very careful surgery, I managed to get them apart somewhere in here. I mean, this looks like the skill of a surgeon. Just delicately go in and separate Siamese twins. That's what I guess it's the Siamese twins joined at the hip, and both of them don't need that hip. I mean, we can do away with it, so one of them will have it, the other one doesn't need it, and that's what I'm doing here. I think I still finding a few pieces of wire here and there. So it was causing me a little bit of trouble because it was really hanging on. But I wanted to get enough of it out of the way that, number one, I could get this plant separated, and number two, not poke myself with a rusty piece of wire when I had to go back and do something. So I first start putting a little bit of bark in, and that's when I realized, no, let's go ahead and separate. Oh, found another piece of wire, getting the pliers with it. And I don't think I get anything off. I bang and pull and grunt and snort and everything else, and I just can't get that piece of wire because it is so embedded and tangled in with the plant and with the roots that it just will not come out. So I eventually give up on it after several attempts, but sooner or later I'll get it. It's just one of those things that, being a man, I gotta try as often as possible. And you can see that the secondary plant is leaning way over, and it just doesn't want to stand up. It wants to become one of its own. Haven't made that decision yet. I'm still barking it in. Yeah, but I'll get there in just a minute. I don't realize how long all of this takes, while I'm making the video. But when I come back and have to do a voiceover, I realize now that this really was taking a fair amount of time, and I was struggling with this. I was working at it, and struggling with it, and it was just taking much longer than you realize while you're doing it, because in the heat of doing things, time passes fairly quickly, and here I think I finally, I'm pulling it apart, and it didn't want to come easily because of the root ball. The plants are actually separate at this point. It was just the roots down in the root ball, still inside part of that wire basket. So I wanted to get as much as I could without just totally ripping it out, and I think I did. I think I got a pretty big chunk of roots, and there, finally got it out. That was like, got that one. Now I'm able to go back and fix this one, and looks like I found another piece of wire there, and don't know if I'm going to get it or not. I think I'll finally give up on it because there's just so many little pieces down in there that I'll never get it all. See, even shaking my head. Nope, not coming out. Okay, so we're going to give up on that. We're just going to trim it a little bit, make the plant look as good as I can. And what I'm doing there is some of the old pseudo bulbs, getting rid of that because they're completely dried and down at the very base of the roots, and they're just in the way. So I'm cleaning that up, and they are quite thick. That's why I'm struggling here, struggling to get those dried up pseudo bulbs, away from the plant. And so here I'm trying to get everything evened up and looking nice and down in the planter, and I think I've finally got it to where I want it, because now I'm putting the bark around. And when I had this one hanging, the roots were hanging. They were probably at least 18 inches long. And when I put it in this, I decided I'm never going to get those roots, threaded through those slots on the basket. I'm just going to wrap them around and put them down in this, and it won't be long, just a matter of a few weeks, maybe a couple of months. Those roots are going to be coming out. And there we see, the final results of that one. And I'll put a wire on it later, so that I can hang it. Okay, so now I'm getting a basket for the new plant. Just happen to have one handy. I already got the wires on it, and all I got to do is put a little bit of bark in it, and hoping that the bark doesn't just fall right through the holes in the basket, and for the most part it didn't. They hung in there pretty good. So then I take the new plant, which is just a perfect size, for this basket. This is a 6-inch basket, so that kind of tells you how large that plant is. So it's 6 inches across the top and about 5 inches tall, so that gives you a good reference point to tell how large this part of the plant is. It's pretty good size. And all I'm doing here is just filling in the bark to hold it up and make it look pretty. Just all the way around, filling in the bark. And it looks like I've got that one. Just kind of even it up a little bit, and it looks pretty good. So I think I'm happy with this, just straightening the wires a little bit. Happy with it, and soon, I hope, I don't remember, we're going to be going to something a little bit different. Well, I think I'm just about through. So we'll see if I catch the microphone at any point. That way I don't have to narrate this all the way to the end. And we're just about there. Okay, so that one is finished. And so we'll find a nice place in the greenhouse for that one also. I don't remember what I'm telling you there. It was probably some heavy philosophical something, to enlighten the world. But we'll just have to guess what I was saying there. Whatever it was, we've missed it, and I don't remember. But I guess I'm telling you, this is how I do it. I've shown you 3 different things, well, 4 different things. The repotting of the Phalaenopsis, the Phalaenopsis in the basket, the breakdown and repotting of my oldest orchid, and then the new part of the orchid, which is going to have a life of its own. And I see that we're coming up on something different on the video, and I don't know what it is. I don't even know if it has sound, so I'll have to wait till I get there in just about a minute and see. Hopefully I had my sound working at that point. So I'll let you know in just a minute. Well, I just realized that my sound was not working. At some point, my microphone turned itself off, so I'm going to have to go back and just put some sound over what I was doing. And this will be okay because I was just repotting. Okay, so here are the orchids that are going to the ICPU unit. I had a couple more than I thought. There's 10 here, and I don't want to give so many to Trish that she just doesn't have time to work on them. So what I'm going to do, Melissa has told me that she would like a few, so I'm just going to randomly pick 5, send those to Trish, and send 5 to Melissa. So hopefully both of them will have a video on what they receive and how they're going to correct it. So that's it today. We'll see you next time.